The apartment looked like a fallout shelter. It was in a sub-basement, 20 feet below street level down a wobbly flight of metal stairs so steep they were practically a ladder. The light at the bottom was burned out, of course, so the landing was pitch black. Also mysteriously wet. No idea how, since we hadn't had any rain in Detroit for a month. But these are the sort of lovely things you discover when you win a cheap bid. Gonna be one of those jobs, I see, I said, pulling my rubber gloves out of my bag.
At least it's not big,
Sybil chirped in my ear, her computerized voice cheerful as always.
The building's custodian AI says the apartment's a one-bedroom. I bet we can fit the whole thing in one truck.
That's good, I said, 'cause one truck is all I have. I dug out my poncho next, grimacing as I pulled the slick protective material over my sweat-dampened ponytail. Even down in the underground where the sun never shone, the temperature was already in the upper 80s, and it wasn't even 9 a.m. Not good weather for covering yourself in plastic. But unlike my jeans and long-sleeved work shirt, my poncho was warded, and I'd learned the hard way that drowning in sweat was preferable to walking into someone's no-trespassing curse without protection. All right, I said, cinching the hood of my poncho tight under my chin so that I was draped head to toe in spell-worked plastic. Light her up. The words were barely out of my mouth when the LEDs on the side of my AR goggles lit up like miniature suns, filling the dank stairwell with blazing white light. It was so bright that I missed the little red recording icon that came on next in the corner of my augmented reality vision. Thankfully, AIs never forgot protocol.
This is the video log for Unit 4B, Building 92, Detroit Free Zone Underground Block 14, Sybil recited. Purchase date, Monday, July 22, 2115. Receipt number 144525. Cleaner ID, Opal Younge. Do you verify?
This is Opal Younge, and I verify, I replied dutifully, hitting the button to flip to my interior camera for a shot of my sweat-streaked face beneath my protective gear. Proceeding with occupant notification. CYA out of the way, I slung my work bag around to my back and reached out to knock on the door, trying not to think too hard about the way the furry black spots on the paint squished under my gloves. Cleaner, I announced loudly, thanking my lucky stars that I'd had the presence of mind to put on my rebreather before I'd climbed down into all this mold. If you're inside, open up. There was no reply. There was never a reply. But I always asked, because the one time I didn't, I just knew I'd open the door and find some junkie staring me down with a shotgun. Speaking of, I grabbed a fistful of local magic from the air and slapped it against my poncho to activate the anti-bullet wards. Just in case. Unit has no reply, I told my recorder. Proceeding with reclamation.
Ready when you are,
Sybil said, flagging the point in the video so that if someone tried to contest this job in arbitration later, I could point to the exact moment at which I stated my intent. This is Opal Younge, I told the almost certainly empty apartment. Subcontractor for Detroit Free Zone Habitation Management. You're 30 days behind on your rent and have not responded to multiple contact attempts from collections. Therefore, by the terms of your rental agreement with the city, this apartment and all possessions therein are now property of the DFZ. By which I meant property of me. When people skip town without paying their rent, the city takes their stuff to pay the bill. No bureaucrat wants to deal with sorting through someone else's abandoned junk, though. So they send the unit to auction, where it's bought by someone like me. I'm a cleaner. I buy delinquent apartments in the hopes of selling what's inside for a profit. Sometimes I scored big. Other times, almost every time recently, I paid for the privilege of shoveling trash. Thankfully, on this particular unit, the bar for profit was practically on the ground. I'd gotten the whole thing for $300, basically free. And despite the mold, I already had a good feeling about it.
To keep listening to this audiobook, I've left you a link in the description so you can do it, at no cost thanks to Audible's 30-day free trial.